when Mr. Shahani told me 150,000 square feet of individually designed areas, I can actually relate to him because it is no mean feat to have 150,000 square feet, which is individually, painstakingly designed, thought of, created. And it's an ongoing process, like he was telling me. You often keep breaking and redoing things. I think that's the sign of a very, very successful organization. And there is only one way for an organization that keeps evolving up. So, we begin with design thinking. And like I was sharing with ma'am before, my endeavor today is not so much to give you gyan that Google Auntie provides very freely to all of you across disciplines, but to share with you my experiences of what and how we develop design thinking, how we've applied it to our lives. And I'm not talking of today, but I'm talking of about 13 years back. So I'll take you through it. I could also relate to you for each and every discipline that you're talking about, because as destiny would have it, when I saw the creative, and I till that time didn't realize ISDI, ISME, WPP, each one specializing in something. So yes, we are into design about 25 years plus, and manufacturing and innovation of products. We are into hospitality by default. We got in there and we had no knowledge how to, leave alone run a hotel or a resort, how to set up and run a restaurant. It was beyond my imagination. But 10 years back, we got into hospitality. And we are into luxury second homes, real estate in a very small way, but a niche market where we specialize there. And now we are coming up with India's largest chain of retail interior products. I'm really slogging day and night to put this 50,000 square feet monobrand store with 2,500 products designed by us, manufactured by us, stocked by us. So I could actually relate to everything that you're saying. And it's an incremental thing that it keeps coming and it keeps happening. Well, let's move on to the disclaimer. I'm sure if Indu ma'am knew I'm a college dropout, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. I'm sure if she knew I've never studied design in my life, I'm sure she wouldn't have invited me here to speak to you all. But this is who I am, and don't get so surprised. It's okay. We will handhold you and take you through this. Okay, let's start. I know you guys have studied design thinking, and it's one of the foundations and pillars on which we stand. Who invented and who coined the word design thinking? There was one gentleman who actually coined the word. I was intrigued because for me, design thinking started and ended with IDEO and Stanford and D School. That's where design thinking, because I've learned design thinking from IDEO, and that's where my knowledge was. But recently I came across, and the gentleman who can be actually credited to using the word design thinking for the first time was Arnold in his book, Creative Engineering. So that was a piece of information I thought everybody should know, since our futures are going to depend upon how humanly and human-centered we think of design thinking as. Well, like I said earlier, by chance in 2007, that time design thinking was not even a management terminology being used and coined by people. I attended a workshop with IDEO for 3 days, Grow by Design. Until that time, we used to design left, right, and center anything that came to us. And my only criteria was to try and make that design unique and get into the footsteps of people and experience it and change the experience of any given design environment that we would put our hands into. But after this 3-day workshop, my whole thought process on design changed, because I started to better understand why we've been successful in doing what we've been doing till 2007, and we had done a lot till that time. And what is it that I'm really searching for deep within? When I say to improve a given environment, what is it that we as an organization and me personally was always searching for? I was searching for improving the lives of people who habited that organization. So if I were to design over here, I would think of the students, I would think of the faculty, I would think of the brand, the image, the brand aspirations, the current brand positioning, the creatives, the collaterals available, and how can we bridge this gap? There are too many definitions of design thinking, and like I said earlier, I'm not going to bore you with it. All this is knowledge that's available from Stanford and IDEO, the gurus and gods of design thinking, innovation. Every organization is looking at innovation. Everybody wants to be innovative. From the Dabbawalas in Mumbai, which are very well spoken about as a case study world over, to the big tech companies, to the big fintech companies, everybody's talking of innovation. because the only way in the future is for organizations to survive is to innovate. The ones who do not innovate are going to perish. David Kelly, Tom Kelly, Tim Brown, we've studied them through the years. And like I said, 2007, nobody in India knew design thinking. Nobody would give importance to design. People used to talk in a very non-creative manner and fashion. All they wanted was, how many people in this organization? What will it cost us? When will you complete? And that was how mundane and non-important design was in boardrooms. So my understanding of design and design thinking, apart from the jargons, is very simple. Design thinking was always in use. Only thing, the people who used it were designers. Designers would look at a place and say, what if we do this? What if we do that? But do you think this will look nice? I think this will look better. So it was always a dialogue. It was an incremental design. And design would not be a predefined solution on day one, which one was supposed to give it to somebody. Though later part of the years in design practice, with the way design has been ill-treated in India, with the way meager fees for design are paid to designers, design profession has become what we know of it today. And even today, some of the architects and designers and the largest projects in the country by the government are doled out in per square feet rates of design, wherein the designers can barely manage to pay their draftsmen. Leave alone research, leave alone spend time on that design, leave alone get into the mindset, get into a human-centered design. So for me, empathy in design, human-centered design is what good design is all about. Good design is not supposed to be fancy design. Good design can be even in the midst of Dharavi. Good design can be in a remote village. Good design can be anywhere. Because good design, the ingredients are very different from what we know of it. Learning, unlearning, relearning doesn't happen. They've been conditioned in design to think in a certain direction. And it is precisely that conditioning that I have never got a chance to be doctored with, because I never went through formal design education. There is always a different way of looking at it. One has to be humble. One has to be ready to listen. And at a later part, another video will tell you how to listen and listen hard. So for me, design thinking processes can be learned online. But what is more important is what is the basic ingredients of design thinking. And if these ingredients are missing and they are not inculcated within the DNA of every student in this organization, let me understand with a raise of hands, how many of you think you're creative? Can I see hands? How many of you think you're creative? Come on, dude, the entire design team should be raising their hands. So you think you're non-creative, then you're not the right course. Okay, so that's about not even 25% of the people sitting in this room think they're creative, right? Have I got it right, roughly? Okay. If a question is asked, everybody would raise their hands. They won't care two hoots. What will the other person think? But as you grow up, the frontal cortex brain, the command center of your brain, starts taking charge of who you are, starts being reactive to what others will respond to you. And that, when conditioned by teachers, by parents, by society by and large, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, what will people think, what will people say, dress properly, this is not accepted, that is not accepted. That conditioning of naysayers then takes you away from that humble, inquisitive nature and creative nature where you do not care how the world thinks how you dance. You dance because you enjoy to dance. So for me, inculcating this essence of creativity, I've done workshops and sessions. So once I did a workshop with ICICI Prudential, hardcore finance guys. They were in a board meeting and they asked me to do a design thinking session with them. I asked them, how many of you are creative? None of them raised their hands and their answer was simple. We are finance people, we don't need to be creative. Dude, if you're not creative, you're not going to innovate any financial products in your organization. And I would remove you as management, because if my management and financial services sector cannot innovate products, the company will be irrelevant in a period of time. So anyone can approach the world like a designer, is my belief. And this is what is one of the main critical ingredients. Allowing people to understand, to ask questions, allowing people to draw. You do not need to be an artist to draw. Yes, somebody can draw better. Let me share a secret with you. Through my career, I must have done about more than 500 projects, some of the biggest brands. I can't draw a straight line. Seriously. So if I have to communicate my concepts, I had to take a call at some point in time. Am I going to think what the others are going to think about me? Or am I going to start drawing and communicating what I want to communicate as far as I'm able to communicate in the essence what I'm trying to communicate? I started drawing, I started sketching. Yes, in my engineering days where I dropped out of college, I've learned engineering drawing that helped me in my design career to understand drawings from an engineering perspective. But sketching I can't do. And that has never stopped me from allowing me to translate my ideas in my mind to the outside world. I find a medium to do it and I don't care who thinks of it how. So very often, people are scared to pick up an inspiration. So fashion designers, interior designers, architecture, communication experts, management guys sitting here, you need to communicate and you need to get what is in your mind. You need to find a medium to communicate, either with somebody else's referential work. So if you're designing a dress and an ensemble and you can't really communicate what you want to say, it's okay to use referential work from Gucci, Armani, Versace, Louis Vuitton, whoever it is. Anthropology. So again, in the world of design, anthropology is a science that needs to be acquired and self-taught. Yes, there are qualified anthropologists, and I don't know if your college engages in hiring qualified anthropologists across, but the science of human behavior, the context of things, caste, creed, religion, socio-economic movements, status, ways of thinking, understanding a human and understanding how a human mind works is the science of anthropology. And in any of the disciplines that you're working, be in hospitality, be in design, be in fashion, be in management, if you can't understand humans, your products and services will be very fake, will be very hollow, will be very void. It's only the understanding of humans in any of the businesses and fields that you guys are into will really give you a deep insight into your business. The point that is being driven, Gully Boy did it बहुत hard with 13 awards. Dude, बहुत hard is what made Gully Boy what it is, a movie today. But it is the same बहुत hard that you need to apply in listening to the people for whom you're going to be designing or working or doing any problem solving for. Look hard, listen hard, and think hard. Why, what, how is applicable in anything and everything in life. Why is what gives a meaning. It creates value. Why is why Apple is Apple. Why is why Google is Google. eBay is eBay, eStore is eStores. It's the why that differentiates the boys from the men as far as organizations are concerned. A lot of organizations are interested in putting up their products out there, but they do not understand that the transaction between humans is only going to be possible when you address that why. So when Apple says, we have disrupted the telephone industry, we have disrupted the cell phone industry, we've got one of the most innovative products that's going to change the way you communicate, you listen to music, you shoot pictures. They're not talking about the product, they're talking about you at all points in time. Why, once it is addressed, the product transaction happens by default. The financial transaction happens by default. So it is this why that creates value. So whenever you're designing, as an entrepreneur, you're thinking of a new business, you think of making money, yes, it's a byproduct. But you first think of adding value to humans. You're doing fashion design, you're doing interior design. How can you add value to humans over anybody and everybody else in the industry, what they're doing? So creating value is super critical as one of the main ingredients. And like I said earlier, allow yourself to be inspired. There's no shame in being inspired. I'm inspired all the time by Hafiz, by Sanjay Puri, by Thomas Heatherwick. I'm inspired by Gucci, by Armani, by Versace. Every furniture piece I design has been researched. After we've researched them, then we design. Does it mean we copy them? There's a big difference. We don't. We allow ourselves to be inspired. So fantastic examples of most successful apparel brand, Zara, Michael Kors, currently not doing financially very well, but Michael Kors. But these are great examples of brands that have allowed themselves to be inspired and emulated by the brands that they are looking up to and roll out their products in a different price segment. The clientele of Louis Vuitton is never the clientele of Zara, But then Zara is still much, much bigger than everybody else in the world. So allow yourself to be inspired. In India, designers in architecture and design colleges, their thought processes have been doctored. They are not allowed to be inspired by others. So very often, my biggest argument with new employees joining the organization, new designers who want to work with me, they do not pick up inspiration. And when I start picking up inspiration, they look at me like, dude, this guy is non-qualified and he's only copying around things. That's the premise with which how badly they've been doctored. This has to change if you want to be a good design thinker. You need to be allowing yourself. So Thomas Heatherwick, one of the finest designers in the world, he won the best global export design at Shanghai Expo for the UK Pavilion. And he was inspired by the simple Tom and Jerry comic. And that butthead stuck into his head till the time he went ahead and designed an entire building which was inspired by this comic. So there is no love lost in allowing yourself to be inspired. There can be many inspirations. As far as you pick up those inspirations and draw in a process, you will arrive at a result that will surprise you and surprise everybody else around you. Well, the design thinking processes have been known to you and have been taught to you all. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. My way of looking at each of these processes is very different. Empathy is the foundation on which a human being stands tall today. Not only in design thinking, in life. If you can't empathize with other humans, then I think you are somebody from a neighboring country. You can research on 5 Ws. So there is a given problem, and you start asking, why did the problem occur? When did the problem occur? You will keep dwelling into the 5 whys till the time you come on to a solution and the true cause of the problem is known to you. If you don't, it's not necessary to stop at 5. It can come before, it can come even after. Why, what, when, how is again yet another methodology that one can use to inquire. Whilst inquiring and empathizing, you need to be non-judgmental, because the minute you judge, your inquiry process is over. You've already reached to a predefined position that you've taken. Framing the right question. Let me share an example. What Einstein had to say, if he had a problem and he had 1 hour to solve it, 55 minutes would go into defining the problem, and 5 minutes would go into the solution side of it. Even in design, most designers, by the time the client starts talking, they're already ready with the answer in their mind and the solution. That is the danger point, because you've not finished your inquiry phase, you've not reiterated it to the defined phase, and hence you've no business. So this room is to be painted black, white, brown, gray. If I enter and I say, okay, this is the color, I've not done the process. I've been judgmental. I'm letting my own personal wishes rule over what is the demand of this room. So you need to inquire, empathize. You need to define. How many of you can give me an answer to what would the future petrol pump look like?
Even if you go to Amsterdam right now, it's everywhere by your parking or everywhere around the canals. They're just there.
Mobile stations. Fantastic. Lovely. Dime a dozen companies and apps have come across the world where your cars will be refueled in your parking lot at home, in common areas, office areas, and all common points where you don't need to stand in a queue and wait. They will come in a queue and fill up gas for your cars. Ideation. So the third process is ideation, and ideation very often is the key determining factor midway to the process, whether you have boys in the team or men in the team deciding which idea to be selected to prototype. So you need to begin, allow your mind to be open, divergent, not convergent. You need to start from point A. It's not necessary you're going to go to a predefined point B. Point A will go to point T might go to S, S will go to B. It is an iterative process you need to do back and forth. But yes, there is a given timeline in which you need to finish, and you need to arrive at a final ideated design that's going to be taken up into prototyping phase for implementation. So ideation, you need to allow yourself to have ideas that will be thinking out of the box. Out of the box, on the corners of the box, behind the barcode of the box. Like I said, innovation cannot be just out of the box. It can be even on the corner of the box, the edge of the box, behind the box. So you need to allow yourself to have ideas which are completely different from what you had started off with. And that's where innovation happens. Think big, start small, fail fast. Most people do not do these three things because their first phase of empathy is not being ingrained into their DNA very well. People do not want to fail. If they prototype something, they'll argue 1,000 times over, wanting the prototype to be successful and wanting it to go into a testing phase. It's okay for the prototype to fail. It's okay for the prototype to be crappy. It's okay for the prototype not to communicate exactly what you wanted to communicate. Till the time you come with the second version, the 2.0, the 3.0, the 3.5, 3.8, 3.9. Let's look at an example of, first let me tell you an example of Dyson. So Dyson failed 5,000 times right from somewhere in 83 onwards. Indians need to understand prototyping phase is not jugaad. Most often, we as Indians love, jugaad is in our DNA. We love to create things and we think that's the final prototype. There's a big difference between design thinking processes and jugaad. Never mistake these two because jugaad doesn't have a finite end. Jugaad is a makeshift arrangement, whereas prototype is going to add value to the consumer, is going to add value to the user, and it's going to be infinite. It has to continue adding value throughout. It's not a temporary phase. So that's one more point. Testing, don't worry, be crappy. Your prototype has to go into a test mode. Prototype of your idea has to go into a test mode. You can be crappy, the idea may not be completely ready, but if the idea is innovative, it's going to add value. The crappiness can be fine-tuned at a later stage. And like I said, design thinking is an iterative process. It'll keep moving in between. It's never a horizontal, never a vertical. It's an iterative process. It'll keep moving again and again, back and forth, till the time you come with the final solution. Right. So all these processes without learning have no meaning. And I'm a big proponent of self-learning, like I said earlier. We focus on design thinking and innovation way early in our careers. Started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 19, and I dropped out of college because I just wanted to go out there and do things across. 2 small business enterprises, 2 years of pest control, and a contracting company. Contracting company taught me a lot about design practices in India when I worked as a contractor with architects and designers. We always wanted to move to something bigger, something unique. So way back in 96, I realized that there was no furniture importers in the country. There were no official representatives of these fantastic European brands in India. And it was a novel concept. I went down to Italy for the first time. I'd never traveled there. Picked up one company, and one company led me to the other, to the other, to the third. Within that year, I started representing 27 Italian firms. With those 27 Italian firms, my best learning of design ever happened. Because I got exposed to Ettore Sozzat Studios, Eldiello Manelli, Charles Pollock. Already Synthesis was using these designers. And because of being a buyer from India, they said, what the hell, we've not sold a product in India. If this guy is going to represent us, allow him to learn about it. And that was my learning ground in design. So 27 companies, their factories, their design studios, their marketing teams taught me everything I know about design today. 97, we went into furniture manufacturing because imports, what I had studied in those factories, I thought certain products could be manufactured here. Turnkey interiors, we coined this word and innovated it. 99, 2000, architects and designers used to be one side, contractors used to be the other side, suppliers would be the third side, and project management companies would be the fourth side. That was a time when the big 5 project management companies had entered the country. I said, what if we render all these services at one point for a fixed price? So that set the ball rolling, and one of our ex-Star TV people is sitting here. When she was in Star, I was designing their office. So that was the first office we designed for Star TV. I was fortunate enough to win me a Design Practice Award because it was out-of-the-box thinking. And the office was not a normal office. We moved, designed radio stations. And again, the clients were not giving us a brief because most times the client know not what they want. And it's your job as a designer to decipher this, educate the client what they want. So everything we did differently. And this was an ILFS building about 20 years back when colors were not in offices. Offices were mundane, grey. Colorful offices were like not happening. Anything different, any sculpture, any element that would be challenging our thought process and different would create an awe, an element of surprise. We started working on it instantly. So we would take up a challenge. None of these things came from clients or stakeholders. We always propose difficult things to our people. And did. So we turned around the old Bajaj headquarters from Rahul Bajaj, old world management style, when Rajiv Bajaj had just taken over the new world management style. I'm a great fan of Rajiv Bajaj, I'm a great fan of Sanjeev Bajaj, and I'm fortunate that I've worked with them close quarters while designing this headquarters. It's my thought process that intrigued Rajiv into believing that yes, I can bring value to the organization. And very soon, as soon as I finished designing the headquarters, he assigned me to something else. He said, Jimmy, we've designed a showroom next door, and it's very close to our headquarters. A specialist retail company has designed it. Why don't you go and see it? And that's the new showrooms I want to launch. So I came back and told Rajiv, I said, dude, I'm sorry. To me, it looks like an Apple store. You remove the board of Bajaj motorcycles and put shirts and garments inside, and it's right enough. Hey, what do you mean? He said, give me a little time. And that's the first time I actually thought about behaviors of consumers, the user interface, the user experience in a retail store. I borrowed 2 motorcycles from him and parked it in my reception. So in that 1 month when I was supposed to prepare the design, the motorbikes were growing on me. And we came up with a design that was so different and so unique that when we put 2 motorcycles vertically one on the other, you could replace a Bajaj motorcycle, put up a Hero Honda there, and people will still think of it as a Bajaj. We did these showrooms in 70 cities across India. And we redefined Bajaj brand, what it stands for, and made it young, youth-oriented, yet industrial looking. Kingfisher, we did the same. We designed everything for our so-called Badnaam Vijay Mallya right now. But apart from the finances, management people I've come across working 10 years around with him close quarters. So whatever the finances are one side, that's not my lookout. But in terms of management, the man knew his marbles. As management, when we used to design, he knew everything about his aircrafts. He knew everything about his liquor. He knew everything about leather. He knew everything about fertilizers. He would amaze me to the point when I was assigned to design his yacht. He knew much more about yachts than I ever thought he would. So this was an assignment given to me. I want my lounges to look like the A380 aircraft cabin. So Pittman's New York was designing the 380 aircraft's interiors, and I quickly followed their design. And I tried and incorporated within the airports on Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. All terminals had these lounges, and they were designed by us, won us Retail Design Awards. His lobby was a dream come true, so we designed 18 floors for him. And unifying all these different businesses into one building in Bangalore was the F1 car, A380 scaled down model in the lobby, all his liquor bottles designed with chandeliers. We were adding value to our clients. They didn't ask for it. He would have been happy with any other chandelier. He would have been happy if the car model was not there. But the idea of communicating in your lobby was very, very high on my agenda for any organization. Till today, it remains so. I enjoyed designing this yacht. Again, a fantastic case of design thinking. This was a 100-year-old yacht. It was gifted from Richard Burton to Elizabeth Taylor as a gift. And it's a 100-year-old yacht. It was steam-powered those days. It was designed in an era which I had no understanding of. It was Edwardian era of design. I had no clue what Edwardian era of design was. So self-taught, researched, and not only we just designed this yacht like a typical interior designer, we've always done things differently. I thought like the owner of the yacht. And I realized the owner's cabin was behind the bridge. So the yacht, I would never get the view of the sea as the owner. Hence, we actually increased and built a floor in this yacht. When I proposed it, I got abused by VJM. And he gave a Hindi gali and said, you lost it. You want to build a floor on top. You think there's a building. We said, give me time. And we got into naval architecture, hired the services of a fantastic naval architect. We restructured it, built a floor on top, took the bridge on top, opened up the owner's cabin. All of these were design thinking principles that we were deploying. Otherwise, you'd have never reached to these solutions had we thought like a typical designer and said, okay, red, blue, green, this carpet, this light. We never allowed ourselves to think of all those things. Those were byproducts. We would think like the owner. We would think like the occupant. And that's how our designs would be different. Architecture, we did the same thing. And I was a non-qualified architect, so every time a client would assign me on architecture, it was a difficult job. My presentations had to be one up on all the qualified architects. Uniqueness. And this uniqueness came up because we allowed ourselves to think, ideate, sit with the team, be inspired, and create projects after projects. So be it restoration, I'm the only non-qualified architect to ever won an Urban Heritage Architects Award for restoration. Because, again, you learn, you can self-learn every single thing. So we restored, we created unique theme-based architecture. Siddhivinayak Mandir design has been one of my most favorite things and closest to my heart. We finished half the design, and last time the design has been left incomplete. Hopefully the new government has come on board and they are going to get me back again to finish the remaining things. Again, there I'm thinking of only the user interface, of what the experience can be created for a devotee when he goes there. How can I isolate the traffic noise? How can I put a water body? How can I remove the footpath pavers and put an astroturf on it? So we are only constantly thinking of other humans. And that's the true essence and core of all our designs, why we land up where we land up. Well, recognition comes as a byproduct, so never let people ridicule you. I have had awards where I've gone and architects have refused to stand next to me because they think a non-qualified architect cannot be awarded. But never let it. Continue working. Don't care for what others have to say. Your work will speak for itself and people will someday appreciate what you do. We've been designing for the past 12 years. And at that point in time in 2007, IDEO happened. So within this last 10 years, after I went through design thinking in 2007, 2009 onwards, our life has taken a different turn. And we set up, ma'am, just like you set up multiple programs. In these 10 years, we set up multiple businesses, of which we had no clue. We never knew also we were headed there. So we set up resorts and adventure, data, villas, Della Gallery, which is supposed to be inaugurated next month, hopefully. In each of these, there is a lot of specialization we brought across on the table. So 2008, we had already done the top 100 corporates in the country and we had done 500 projects. We are tired of listening to clients and their cronies telling me what they want and listening to a chairman secretary and saying, where will my filing come? I mean, I thought I'd done that. The last draw was a large financial institution that I designed and the chairman came for the presentation and I was talking about their brand, aspiration, their perception in the public today. We had done a whole lot of homework and research and the only thing that man said is, how much it is coming to, and you have a reputation to hand over, you will hand over. And he went, his secretary continued the rest of the presentation. I have no problem in dealing with the secretary, but I had a serious problem in my presentation not being respected. The client not interested in his employees, the client not interested in his brand. And that to me was a turning point. So I wanted to move into something else where I would be my own client. And we started designing second homes. Those second homes were different because we realized in the market there was a gap. Every builder was focusing either on commercial or residential. There was not a single developer, organized, serious developer focusing on second homes. So we started with second homes in 2008. 2009, we started with adventure. And again, we identified a gap in the market. We realized there is theme parks in the country, but there is not a single adventure park in the country. And it wasn't that difficult to set up an adventure park because, again, I did what I would enjoy doing with my family. I did exactly that. And we set up an adventure park with some 70 activities across through the park. People loved it. And we kept listening to people at all points in time. Well, I'm just running through it very fast. Adventure led to hospitality. And again, we realized there are fantastic 5-star brands. By the time of 2010, all international global brands, ISG, Four Seasons, everybody was there in the country. And if we had to put up any accommodation facility to support the adventure park, it had to be out of the box different, creating experiences. And that's what dwelled us into creating experiential hospitality. We started with a 30-tent resort and created experiences till date. After 10 years, this remains as the most occupied place in spite of us creating 6 resorts. We innovated a lot of things within the hospitality industry, even being recent entrants. 24-hour hospitality, coffee shops, I'm sure all of you have used them in the middle of the night. The same stale biryani, same stale sandwiches. I've never realized as to why a different chef cannot be put on duty and why the full kitchen cannot work at night. So we started 24-hour fine dining concept. Our tandoors never go off. Different set of people take over. Spas the world over shut off at night. And people like us, like I said, 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, we're there in the office. The only time we really want to chill is in the middle of the night. The spa is shut at 10 o'clock, most places in the world. So again, we've hired a separate team of people and we have a 24-hour spa. So this side of the country, we are the only 5-star which has a 24-hour spa working. Soon enough, we became a case study for New York Stern. And New York Stern did a case study on Della and its impact on the socio-economic movement in that area. It was a fantastic feather in our cap. We enjoyed it, and I enjoyed spending my time with the final year MBA grads that day and doing sessions with them. Well, again, something happened. JRD Tata said, no success or achievement in material terms is worthwhile unless it serves the needs of the country and its people and is achieved by fair and honest means. So reasonable success, yeah, there was always a struggle being a first generation entrepreneur for money and generating capital for capital intensive businesses, but the satisfaction of impacting human lives and doing something for our country was not coming. So the next thing that I did, change that. Again, design thinking principles. What is it that we can do to serve our country and yet make money? So we set up a business that ignites passion for the country. We set up a counterterrorism training academy for civilians, the corporate world, non-professionals. And this is the academy now. It's been designed with many firsts. So we are the first military themed resort in the country. We are the first glamping resort in the country. Glamour and camping put together in a contemporary sense. And we are the first restaurant or organization to salute Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw, the hero of the 1971 war. This man changed the dynamics between India and Pakistan. And till today, we tom-tom about it because of this one man. So we designed a restaurant and dedicated to his life. We set up training facilities with our ex-armed forces. So we picked up the finest of armed forces, from the Lieutenant General Raymond Noronha, who heads our operation, to Marcos Commandos, NSG Commandos. We've got colonels, zubedars, captains, ID specialists, paratroopers. All these are army veterans. So we found a unique method of recruiting these retired veterans who have been there, done that, who are decorated officers, and allowing them to train the corporate segment. So this military tourism is a new buzzword. Because of this buzzword and because of our current young dynamic tourism minister Aditya Thackeray having experienced it himself, he has invited me to design the blueprint for the tourism policy in Maharashtra. So now I'm working on doing up the new tourism policy for Maharashtra. Well, we are the first obstacle course in the country for civilians, which is available to the public by and large. This is our vision now. Whichever businesses we are into must improve the lives of as many people and the experiences of as many people as we do business with. Thank you.
This thing that I ask the students, and I say, at what age does a man stop being creative?
Never.
You think so?
Absolutely
I was
never.
going to say at the age of 5 when he goes to school. Sorry, so go ahead.
The point, when they start becoming conscious about what others will feel about them, each human being needs to ask this question to himself: does he or she want to be successful? The only ingredient required is to stop thinking what others think about you. Because that is the only reason which will keep you away from your success. The minute you stop thinking what others will think of you, go and make a monkey out of yourself. Dance the way you want to dance because you're dancing for yourself. Sing the way you want to sing. Design the way you want to design because you're designing for yourself, because you're enjoying it, and your work will speak for itself.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we've got a first question. We put a Google. I'm going to ask for spontaneous questions also, but there are 2 or 3 students who are very religiously answered our Google docket, gave some questions. There's a student called Anchal Tala. Are you here today? Anchal, why don't you stand up? So can I just read out your question? So she says, design is a long process that demands time and patience, and you learn and grow with each project. But in times like today, when there is so much inspiration available, how do you create an identity of your own and make your work stand out? Since we are just students as of yet, how do we come up with our own ideas and not get influenced to directly put different pieces of inspiration together and complete our design? And I think let's give her a warm applause. This is the first question. Well done. Well done.
I'll tell you my take on it. Stop giving yourself so much of importance. Your identity, your things, come on. You are just a small fraction, or not even a fraction. So if I compare my designs to Thomas Heatherwick's designs, I'm not even chicken feed, dude. That man designs at a different scale, canvas, and each project of his is amazing. He's designing the new Changi airport, which is much bigger than Changi 1, 2, 3 put together. He's designed the Google headquarters. He's designed the Olympic quadrant. He's designed the new buses for City of London. Now, you put the perspective. So if at all you want to create your identity, learn the positives from him. Be in a studio, look at the humbleness of the man. And even today he approaches a design. If somebody goes to him, he decides whether the project is going to be unique or not. That's his identity. If the project is going to be unique, he'll take the assignment. And if he takes the assignment, he will do the entire process. He will not say, I'm Thomas Heatherwick, he'll take a pencil, pen, start sketching. That's what our Indian designers do. And I have a huge problem with that. Most of them have become egocentric and it's all about their identity. They think they are somebody. They might be somebody. It's okay. But in the global sense of the word and with a dynamic world like today, what are we on a global scale of architecture? Nobody. What have we created in our country which is symbolic in architecture? Nothing. In fact, we have a lot to learn from each of these global giants. Be humble. Start giving your 100%. And in that 100%, only think about the occupiers, the users, the people who assigned you, your clients, and more important is the people who are going to occupy that space or the product or the people who are going to use the product you're designing for. Because the more you think of that, the more you'll become better at doing it. The more you do it with practice, the more you'll become better. It comes as second nature. You never think about anything else. You never think about achieving a name for yourself, creating your product, winning awards. It doesn't matter. It comes to you, it comes to you. It doesn't come to you, to hell with it. I mean, you just focus on one thing. Empathy. Humans. And that is going to be a game changer and that will become your trademark.
Before I go on to more of students, I'm going to ask the whiz kid of design thinking, Amit Kundal, to ask a question. Amit, you have a question? You have a question? Think about it. Okay, you'll come in a while. Any of you design faculty would like to ask a question? Minal, anyone?
I would love students to ask, dude. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask, but first I want the faculty. Manan, you asking? Okay.
My question is, for an organization to be successful, team plays a very important role. What difficulties did you face in building a team, and how difficult was it for you to align the employees that you were hiring with the vision and the goals of the organization?
See, your organization is as good as the teams that you build, and your team is as good as a reflection of you. So you need to lead from the front as a leader. And if you're leading from the front, you are already ingraining empathy, respect for humans, respect for their knowledge, respect for their suggestions, respect for their views. If you give them the freedom, the biggest motivator in a job is, all research has proved, it's not money. It's a job satisfaction. So you try and have a high level of EQ and SQ in you, things fall into place. And you don't always hit the right chord. There are hundreds of designers who worked with me and gone because I've been too harsh. I'm non-compromising, I'm committed to a point of madness. It's difficult to work with somebody like me who puts in 24 hours and the slightest mistake you do, I come down heavily on you. But that's because I come down heavily on myself. When others see that, they love to do it and then they give their life and work for the organization. So when I came into hospitality, very often the seniors who were hired from Hyatt, from Hilton, from blah, 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 they would question my knowledge in hospitality. But at each point in time, when I would self-learn and surprise them, that's when you earn the respect. It again happened with me in my career. When I did data, I designed the programs for training. Counterterrorism training program is personally designed by me. So when we hired NSG Commandos, Marcos Commandos, Lieutenant General of Indian Army is a very high-ranking officer. He's led 1 million soldiers, head of Southern Command. When I had to work with him, I had to get my level down and earn his respect. So when you behave like that, today he respects my knowledge and security. In spite of all his professionalism, he respects my knowledge and security because I have slogged my butt out and have learnt security. How to train and teach. Because the army way to train and teach is either to kill or to survive. Take a finger, break it. You can't train civilians like that. You can't train corporates like that. So we had to modulate between the professionals and the corporate world. When you do that and they see you lead from the front, they see you burn the midnight oil, you earn their respect. And today my commandos and my colonels, we have fantastic equation between us. And you guys must visit it and see it. It's exemplary. Google CEO made me talk to their entire management team, and they spent 2 nights there. So they would not spend a minute of their time if it was not worth it. What I'm trying to say is you have to earn that level of knowledge. And in any field you guys as management do, and you start from the bottom. And like I was telling her, have no airs about yourself because you are as good as yesterday's newspaper if you don't really upgrade your level of knowledge and your relationships. But back, which I'm saying it for the 10th time, empathy. If you have that, you give the other human respect, it comes back to you.
Very good.
For everything that you said, you really inspired us. And all of us here are really motivated to do something good at life. And my question is, because I've already worked in the hospitality background for some time before this course, it is very, very difficult to maintain the reputation. So how would you manage, especially in this country where people complain about everything? They're not satisfied with what you give them. So how will you manage the reputation of Della in future?
Okay, it's a couple of things. One is you keep your ears very close to the ground. And when you do that, you listen to your guests. You know the frivolous complaints of discount seekers, how to remove those complaints aside. You listen to your employees, you listen to your guests. You come down very heavily for the slightest of guest complaint. And that's one thing I do. So I don't read emails. I don't use emails. I only work on my WhatsApp. Email has to be shown to me or else I'll not go through 600 mails a day. But if there is a guest complaint, it has to be in print escalated to me and I need a closure on it. And I don't need a closure, again using design thinking, only to solve that problem. I want to get to the bottom of it. What created that problem? Because when you solve the problem from the bottom of it, the problem doesn't reoccur. Also, giving the respect to your guest and having that attitude kind of goes from the management to the senior managers to the down the line people. So we are not averse to customer complaint. We welcome customer complaint. We listen to them and we work out solutions. Most times managements are averse to customer complaints. They are defensive about it. They are not willing to listen. We are a brand. I mean, you might be whoever. You might be the best brand in the world. But if there is a mistake, also the Indian psyche point number 2 is value for money. Sasta, sundar, tikau. That's us, including me, all of us. So there is nothing too cheap for our country, nothing too expensive. We are a very poor country filled with rich people. Right? So, for us, if that value for money strike is there, then you're bingo bang on, 100%. We try and make sure we have value for money. So even though our prices are raised, we need to make sure we work that much extra. So our every room has a jacuzzi. Hospitality standards don't demand a jacuzzi in every room. Only suites have a jacuzzi. Right? At best, there's a bathtub. We give a jacuzzi in every room. Yes, there is extra maintenance. Yes, there is cost. Yes, there's running cost. But dude, we are out to please our customers and surprise them. So you need to do things to please your customers and surprise them at every touch point. And then you will get that customer loyalty back to you, which is what. So we as a brand have spent hardly anything on advertising and marketing. Very minuscule. You will hardly see ads of Della, a few hoardings on the expressway, nothing else. Compared to Lavasa, compared to Ambi Valley, we spend nothing else. It is only word of mouth. And that word of mouth, we need to make sure that we keep our ears very close to the ground and we understand value for money and creating value for our Indian customers.
Thank you, sir.
So it's very nice to hear about the empathy angle. We keep talking to our students about empathy, and empathy for the customers is very important. Empathy for the employees also is extremely important. And you spoke about how you've created this unique model of military tourism, and you've got veterans from the army with you. I wanted to know what is a very important part of our school is also creating compassion for our community. So that is an extremely important part. So is there any community-based, initiatives you have, because you are in an area where there can be a lot of, give back to the community? Is there something along those lines which you've got?
Okay, so like JRD said, no success is worthwhile. It's only then balance sheet figures keep growing. I don't consider those organizations successful who don't contribute back to society, to the communities they are in. So for us, very early when we started 10 years back, everybody when I went from Bombay told me, do not hire locals, they are nuisance value. And they will shut down your business and they'll hold you at ransom. I listened to everybody and I exactly went ahead and did that. So today we have, out of our 1,650 employees in Lonavala, we have 900 locals. And they are my strength, they are my force, they are my backbone. So we've grown together. Okay, one. We adopted a Zilla Parishad school of 160 kids and have applied design thinking to it. every resource available with Della Adventure, Della Resorts, trainers, managers. We have unleashed it for the benefit of the school. Believe you me, the school has more facilities than an IB school and the best IB schools in Bombay. Our students go through swimming, horse riding, karate classes, judo classes. And who's the trainer teaching judo and karate? A Marcos Commando. The best IB school can't afford them. So what I'm trying to say is, who's teaching them soft skills, grooming? Hospitality trainer. So our 5-star trainer, who's come with XYZ years of experience, is teaching our Zilla Parishad Adivasi schools grooming. We've got an English teacher. We've hired on our payroll. We've turned around that school completely. We give them free lunch. Our cafeteria serves lunch to this 160 students every single day. Not that we can afford it, we have too much of luxury of money. Our salaries get delayed because of financial constraints and demonetization, blah, blah, blah. But the intention to serve the local community is genuinely there. And for me, the measure of success is what impact you brought about in your local community. You might be whoever. If you can't bring about that change and impact, you are nobody to me.
Alumni of Dr. Shahani's finest institutions and a true design thought leader, today you've inspired us all and taught us the importance of self-learning, execution, but more importantly, the importance of humility and never letting the creative child within you die. Thank you so much for taking off this busy Monday morning and inspiring us all.